Hello, Mordarim here. In today's video I want to show you an incredible technique build for Lies of P. This time it's a bit more complex than a straight motivity build with just charge attacks. But this also makes for a very fun experience because of all the choices before you. Fast movesets, very good range, incredible mobility, good stagger damage and the ability to chip away at targets or blow them up with very high burst damage make this one a pleasure to play. And this build comes online very early, finishing progression around the early endgame, in the barren swamp area or in the mid game before the Puppet King, depending on your preferences. First, let's have a look at regular enemies and mini-bosses. Those feature a wide variety of different movesets and behaviors demanding high adaptability from you as a player. However, this is not a problem with the presented setup. You are very flexible with how you approach a fight, be it through burst, hit and run or straight up combat focused tactics, all of which are available to you. The choice of a greatsword blade also allows for incredible mitigation with blocks, which in turn allows for deviation from dodging as your defensive tool. And you also gain access to the perfect guard fable art, which opens up the possibility for immediate retaliation and high skill expression for those that seek it. As for bosses, the combination of inbuilt mobility, fast movesets and high damage mitigation allows for punishment whenever possible. You will always be able to abuse openings provided to you without any trouble. Some bosses are easier with a perfect block approach, while others are much easier with the dodge mechanic as your main choice of defense. But both are perfectly viable. Some moves, however, demand you to move away from your target, which is offset with a plethora of tools provided to you by movesets of certain handles. Dashes, charges or just steps attached to offensive moves bring you closer to enemies, without the need to waste precious time moving to them. The extended range of greatsword blades enhances this even further. As with any build, you can further optimize fights through the use of fitting grindstones and throwables. And to finish off the intro, I will showcase a different technique progression route in another video shortly after this one for those that enjoy the booster glaive. Both basically use the same setup, just their moveset is different and changes the playstyle quite a bit. Next, let's have a look at the attributes for this build and how to progress your character. We're going to start with the Path of Balance, allowing us to choose the Saber blade as our main weapon. This one will be used throughout the early game. As for the stats, boost your vitality to 15 first, then follow up with vigor to 15, capacity to another 15 and your technique to 20. Next, boost your vitality to 18, followed by vigor to 18. Get your technique to 30 and boost your capacity in between to 25. This is crucial because of the defensive parts you're going to find. Throughout the whole game you will be finding frames. Those frames will increase in weight and provide additional physical damage reduction. The same is true for the converters, for the cartridges and for the liner. The most important thing is going to be the frame, followed by the converter and then the cartridge. The liner should never be upgraded above the first one you have, at least not in the early and mid game. The other 3 slots are much more valuable. That's why we need capacity. When looking at the top right corner, you will find a percentage number. This number should never exceed 60%. Once this happens, you're going to enter the slightly heavy domain. And this will reduce your stamina regeneration rate massively. So keep that one down below 60% at 59%. So whenever you find a new frame, upgrade your capacity. Whenever you find a new converter, upgrade your capacity. Otherwise, keep pumping technique. Once you reach 14 technique, you will see a massive decrease in physical damage increases per point. You will be stuck at 2. Actually, you will already see this decrease at 30, but it's still worth putting points into this ability. Once you get to New Game Plus, boost your vitality to at least 30, with capacity increases in between. Next, let's have a look at the blade we are going to use. The Puppet Saber blade is available to you from level 1 right when you start the game. Just pick the Path of Balance. This blade has an incredible moveset. The handle can be used throughout the whole game, right from the start. The fabled art of the handle is going to increase your attack damage for a short duration, indicated by a red glow around your arm. The actual blade art is going to be a 3-step attack that's going to stagger most enemies. Your light attacks consist of an uppercut and a sweeping attack, both of which can hit multiple enemies. And your charge attack will hit 2 times and move you forward, as you can see here. This one can be followed up by another charge attack in the other direction with just 1 strike. The dash attack is going to be a wide sweeping attack. So a very solid moveset that can be used throughout the whole game. Especially in the early game, this one is very useful. Keep in mind, in the early game you're mostly going to just block attacks and not dodge them. So when you're fighting, for example, the Puppet Parade Master, you just want to attack him relentlessly and block in between. This will get you through the fight guaranteed. Upgrade this weapon to +3 maximum. We're going to change the blade afterwards. Before the factory, you will also get access to a technique rank. Use this one on the weapon to increase the technique scaling. You will get more than enough throughout the whole game, so you don't actually waste them. However, once you get to the factory, you can exchange this one for the Fire Axe handle. This one also has a C motivity and C technique scaling that can be boosted to B scaling. The blade is going to look ridiculous, however the moveset is actually quite nice. The biggest change is going to be the charge attack, which has now a dash attached to it with just one singular strike. You cannot follow up with another strike right away, you need to charge this one and just do a few steps. Now, the light attacks of this specific weapon are going to be much slower than just the Saber. You will hit some walls, not all of them, and it's just not a really pleasant experience. I didn't like it. Your dash attack is also going to not be a sweeping attack anymore, but can be followed up by a light attack very easily. Another change is the weapon art. This one is going to be Endure. You can withstand enemy attacks temporarily. What this one means is you can use this ability and not get staggered for a short amount of time. So you can tank through enemy attacks. So if you like this one, instead of the Puppet Saber, go for it. I personally would not advise it because the moveset changes too much from the other handles I'm going to recommend. In the factory you will also find the Booster Glaive. This one is found behind the Puppet, but I have a special section just for where to find those items. The moveset is going to stay the same since we are using the same handle. However, the blade art is going to change. We are now looking at a dash with a 2-stage attack that's going to stagger enemies. 1 and 2. This one deals quite a lot of damage and can be used on bosses very easily. I highly recommend this blade, especially since it's going to boost all our stats compared to the Saber blade. So the next upgrade is going to be the Bone Cutting Saw blade. Again, increasing our physical damage, charge pull cell recharge, fabled art recharge and damage reduction while guarding. The range of each strike is also going to increase massively, as you can see here. You're going to hit enemies where you before couldn't. The same is true for the charge attack. At this point you can basically hit enemies with both attacks, even when standing further away. The fabled art itself is not going to be amazing. It's a 2-step charge attack. It uses 3 fabled charges and deals quite a lot of damage. It can also stagger enemies. However, it's probably not going to be used by you much. At this point we are looking at an upgrade for our Puppet Saber handle, this time with the Bramble curved sword handle. It has a very similar moveset, however we are going to exchange our charge attack for a much better charge attack. We are looking at a dash with a strike. It deals incredibly high stagger damage. We sadly cannot follow this one up with another one right away. We need to charge another one, so that's a little bit wonky. So it's a one-time use, but you can hit and run away. For the handle fabled art, we are looking at a flurry of attacks that are going to stagger enemies at the end. Deals quite a lot of damage, quite a lot of DPS, so when you have someone down, you can use this ability to crush them. Again, I highly recommend using a technique rank to increase the damage. Now, if you do not like the Bramble curved sword handle or the Puppet handle, there is another one that's going to be your go-to handle. We are looking at the Dancer's curved sword handle. This one changes the scaling to A with a crank and changes the moveset completely. Your attacks have now much more range. You're looking at sweeping attacks that hit multiple targets. You deal more stagger damage. Your charge attack gains incredible range. You can hit targets with both hits. And you can further combine this one with another charge attack in the other direction to deal insane damage. And the handle art changes to a perfect guard that counters with another strike that staggers most enemies. We can follow up with a charge attack to actually stagger them. It's a very versatile weapon. However, the dash attack is really bad. As you can see, there is a frame where you glitch out and your character resets the animation. This leads to DPS loss. You don't want to follow up your charge attack with any attacks, just dash away again. Now, this setup has incredible range and is more for hit and run type playstyles. It is not bursty. You're going to deal damage, but not enough to just burst down most enemies in the game. You want to chip them. If you want a bursty damage upgrade, you are looking at the Live Puppets Axe. This will increase the damage by a substantial amount. You're going to increase your Fable charge and charge pull cells, as well as your damage reduction by a ton. The Fabled art is also going to change for the better. However, there is a massive drawback. You're not going to see most enemies because of this axe. It's huge, humongous, it's just gigantic. So first the Fabled art. This one is a very fast, very high damage attack. It's not going to stagger enemies, but it fills up their charge bar. You need to follow up with another charge attack and then critically strike them. The damage of this one is going to be much better. However, the range is going to suffer and your visibility is going to suffer. So pick your poison. For visibility purposes, I vastly prefer the saw blade. it also looks better. Next, let's have a look at the locations. The Puppet Saber can be obtained by choosing the Path of the Cricket Balance. It's the starting weapon. You can additionally purchase this one from the Wandering Merchant for 300 Ergo, and this merchant is found before the first boss. The booster Glaive can be found in a chest behind the Puppet of the Future in the factory. You can loot it while the puppet is still functioning, but you can also drain the toxins behind it, so you have easy access to the chest. The Bone Saw can be found in a chest on the rooftops, surrounded by a lit symbol of the Black Brotherhood in the Malum district. This one is guarded by a large carcass enemy that can throw acid. In this specific area there is a mini boss. This one can be safely skipped, just run to the ladder and climb up. It's a very tough foe and drops a stamina amulet. The Bramble curved sword can be acquired by trading 200 Ergo at the Malum district black market trader at the old red Lobster Inn. The Dancer's curved sword is found in a chest in the Rosa Isabella street. The chest can be found at the end of the street, guarded by hostile puppet enemies with muskets and bombs. You don't actually need to fight those enemies, just sneak behind them and loot the chest. The live puppet's axe is located in the barren swamps. Teleport to the Stargazer with the red glowing puppet, go back to the area without the puppets of the future, and travel to the top of the tower in the zone to find the chest containing the weapon. And the fire axe can be found in a chest located in the factory. There is a trap corridor with fireballs rolling down the corridor. Behind the initial drop point, there is a chest containing the axe. Next, let's have a look at the amulets. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to assume you're going to pick every single boss weapon in the first playthrough, so I'm not going to talk about the amulets you get through the bosses. However, there are some really good ones in there, like for example one that lets you dodge red attacks. However, for this one you're going to sacrifice the 2-dragon sword, so I don't consider this one worth it. The first amulet is going to be the Technique amulet with +4 technique. This one is universally good versus a lot of enemies. However, if you want to specialize your damage for the specific zone or boss, you're going to want the Carcass Butcher amulet for carcasses, Murderer Puppets amulet for humans, and Puppet Destroyer amulet for puppets. Then you want the Carrier amulet, which increases your weight capacity by 20. Without this one you basically are always slightly heavy, despite having 25 capacity, so pick the Carrier amulet. The third amulet is going to be the Patience amulet, which increases the stamina recovery speed by a lot, and the Iron Wall amulet increases the physical damage reduction rate by you and your weapon. So that's the defensive choice. As for the defensive parts, pick the heaviest frame and the heaviest strike damage reduction liner. Most of the heavy hitter enemies are going to deal either slashing damage or strike damage, so both of them are an option. For the converter, pick the one that's going to affect the current zone. So if you're fighting a lot of fire enemies, go with the fire converter. If you're fighting a lot of carcasses, go with the corrosion converter. And the shock cartridge will increase your special resistances. For example, there are enemies that are going to break your poise, so you regenerate your stamina much slower. Pick the shock cartridge against that. Next, the Legion arm. We're going with the puppet string. You can pull in enemies that are not too heavy. At the last stage of the upgrade, you can hold the button and then perform a really strong attack. This will stagger most enemies. The damage of this attack is dependent on the blade you're using, so the live puppet axe will deal more damage. Next, let's talk about the grindstones and consumables. The best ones are the flame grindstone, the electric blitz grindstone, and the acid grindstone for elemental purposes. Flame grindstones are good versus acid enemies or carcasses. Blitz grindstones are really good versus puppets, and acid grindstones versus humanoids. Another really good grindstone is the perfect grindstone, which activates perfect guard automatically when guarding. This one can be used to cheese some bosses later on. Next, where to find the consumable vendor? In the Malum district at the Red Lobster Inn, run inside, climb the ladder and talk to the merchant. The best consumable is the shot put. Buy as many as you can. Other good ones are the abrasives. All 3 elemental abrasives are here, and the thermite, throwing cell or carcass body fluid bottle, all of which deal considerable damage, even without advance. Once enemies have the break bar, so the white bar around them, you can use the shot put to stagger them at range. You can run up and perform a critical strike afterwards. This makes this one the best consumable. And lastly, the P organs. Pick up the increased pull cells, link dodge, increased pull cell 2, added amulet slot, rising dodge, enhanced pull cell recovery 2, then the perfect guard causing stiffness. Pick up added fable slot 1. This will unlock phase 5 and you can now pick up another amulet slot. Finish up with increased special grindstone uses, another fable art slot, another legion arm slot if you have the capacity, and further unlocks in phase 6 and 7. As for what to look out for, enhanced charge stagger attack, increased stagger duration, enhanced ambush stagger, enhanced perfect guard destruction, which is useful to destroy enemy weapons, very good versus humanoid enemies, perfect guard destruction 2, enhanced charge attack stagger, which we are going to use all the time, enhanced fabled art attack, if you're going to use the fabled art of your weapon, increased stagger duration, enhanced fatal attack 2, and then finish up with enhanced fatal attack 1, fabled art attack 1, and so on and so forth. So basically generic stuff. In the survival one, there is a really good one in the first tier, that's enhanced guard region recovery 1. However, I don't found this one to be worth early, so I opted for the ability type. But phase 2 offers us enhanced pulse cell recovery 1, which stacks with the 2, increased pulse cells 3, perfect guard region recovery, so when we perfect guard, we recover health when we just blocked, increased pulse cell 4 for another pulse cell, and another increased pulse cell 5. You can also gain enhanced regen recovery 2 here, which stacks with the first one. The ability type has some really nice ones, with lowering the charge attack stamina consumption, increasing the weapon durability recovery speed of that specific weapon, so when you're using a grindstone. So when you're suffering from acid, you're going to degrade your weapon, which is quite annoying, and in the mid game there's quite a few enemies that provide you with that debuff. So having that increased durability recovery speed is going to come in very handy. Probably the best quality of life perk in the entire game is the reduced stamina consumption from dashes. So when you're running around, you're going to consume much less stamina, basically like 90% less. So this one is quite essential actually. Next one is the charge fable when reviving. So fable charges are going to recover whenever you die. So when you're trying a boss over and over again, you will always have your fable charges. In phase 4, there is fatal attack, fable charger, which is also going to recover your fabled art charges. We're going to perfect guard quite a lot, so having this one will increase your damage output quite considerably. At this point, you're also going to upgrade your puppet string to 4. So you want to actually recover your legion because it's quite strong and useful now. So charge legion when eliminating enemies too is going to come in very handy. And in phase 5 you can find auto charge legion, which is basically a mana regeneration type thing. So you can use your legion arm much more often, especially in boss fights. And we are going to lower our charge attack stamina consumption by a huge amount with the second perk here in phase 5. We can also increase our weapon durability recovery speed another time. This one I also consider quite worth it. The openings in enemy fights are quite small, so if you only have some time to grind your weapon, you want to get as much recovery as possible. Perfect guard, fable charge, enhance is also quite handy. So when you perfect guard, you're recovering fable charge and you can use this one to perfect guard again and so on and so forth. So it's really nice to have. Now the item type one also has quite a few that are really nice, like increased ergo when eliminating enemies, increasing the consumable possession limit by 1, the effect of grindstones, reducing the item prices, and charging fable when using your pulse cells. So this sums up the build. If you found this helpful, please leave a like. If you have any questions or remarks, please comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and you can join the channel membership or leave a donation if you have the spare coin. So see you next time and bye.